Hello developers. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through how I added Cypress test code to a full stack game review app that include features like authentication, CRUD operation, and even map rendering. Throughout this video, you will not only see the process of writing Cypress test, but also you will see some of the most important Cypress concepts. Here's what you are gonna learn: how to set up Cypress in an existing project, configure Cypress to work with environment variables. Then we'll deep dive into some essential Cypress method, including Cypress.get, Cypress.contains, visits, intercept, type, wait, should, URL, and many more. On the top of that, I will show you how to work with fixtures, mock API requests, and responses, which are the key tools when testing modern apps. By the end of this video, you will also learn how to run all test cases at once with a single command, and as a bonus we will integrate GitHub Actions to automate testing after each push to make sure everything works seamlessly. So stick around and let's dive into the video. Right now, I have a Monastic project, which is kind of like a game review project. And let's just run the project to show you how all the things actually working on my project. So right now, I'm in the root directory of my project. Let's just install everything. Right now, I have two folders. One is client, another one is server. And the server holds all the server code, and the client holds all the client code. So it's basically a full stack project. So let's just wait to finish all the installing. Okay, perfect. So let's just try to run our project. So npm start should run both our front end and back end, because I used concurrently a package by Node.js, so which basically a package for JavaScript, which is basically run our project, which actually concurrently run two projects like front end, back end, and if you have other service that also run together. And I added some command to run all the project together. So that's it. Kind of, let's just see the front end. So this is the URL. Let's just open a new tab. So this is a simple project. Like in the home page, you will see all the game, and if you go game details, you can fill up a review, and all the review you can show in your admin panel. There are an admin panel where you can see all of your game list, where you can add new game, you can edit new game, and also you can also see reviews from other people's. Then there is option which is review in map. That's mean the people who will review any particular game, it will show up in the map, so something like this. So that's kind of a feature for these applications. And kind of, yeah, this is kind of the applications where we're going to add the Cypress test. You can also see there are like account creation process, then also you can log in as admin panel. So yeah, these are the basic functionality actually have in this project. So I think that would be a perfect project to write our test code. So now our project runs successfully. It's my older project. I created this project almost 1 year ago, 1 or maybe 2 years ago. And then when I tried to experiment Cypress, I thought, okay, creating new project will be like a lengthy process. So why not just use some of my older projects? So I choose this one. It's like simple, have some authentication flow, and also have some feature called admin panel, so that, and also have a feature map. So I think overall all the things is kind of good to add Cypress test as per learning purpose. So yeah, that's kind of it for our project. Now let's actually install Cypress into our project. I'm just opened another terminal, and because we are writing Cypress test for our front end code base, so that the Cypress, that's mean like Cypress need to configure in your client folder. So let's go to your client folder. Let's go to my client folder, and where all the client code is available. It's kind of a white React project where basically I have some page, I have some components, API, and other things. So this video is not fully focused on the code base about front end and back end. It's more focused on Cypress things. So I'm just ignoring all this stuff. So let's configure Cypress. Let's just first install Cypress. So we're going to install Cypress by this command, and we were going to install as a dev dependency, not like the package dependency. So let's just wait to finish the installation. Okay, the installation have finished. Now before running the Cypress, we need to add some script. Let's say just add the in your package.json file. You can add the script. Like for my case, I want to open my Cypress using only npm run cy, so that I don't have to run like Cypress open command. So it's like a big command. It's like a long command. I think like let's try npm runs scy is kind of easy. This command will actually open your Cypress as a debugging mode. Like when you press Cypress open, it will gives you a bunch of options in the user interface. So I will show you in a bit later. Let's just add another script. It's gonna test. So this is going to check all of our Cypress code. Cypress, I think it should be Cypress run. So sorry, it should be npx Cypress run. So this command will basically run on your terminal and check all of your test code. So this command will not provide you any graphical interface where you can actually move into several tests and check each and every test differently. But when you run this one, Cypress open, it will actually give you that out of the box functionality. So let's just try to run the first one, npm run cy. So yeah, it should open the graphical interface like this. And now you have to configure that you are going to test component testing or either E2E testing, or if you go for both, then you have to choose both, or you have to configure both. So for this video, I'm fully focusing on E2E testing. That's why let's just configure E2E testing, and then you will see these are the file and folder will automatically created by Cypress, so you don't have to do anything. This will kind of like pre-configurations that automatically done by Cypress. Let's just hit continue, and this is where you can choose different platform, where you can see like Electron is like a desktop app kind of things, and Chrome is it will test the test will perform into your another Chrome instance. So I will recommend to use just Chrome. And then yep, so this is the basic interface of Cypress. So when you enter this command that I mentioned earlier, like Cypress open, so it will give you this interface, and you can check all of your tests, and you can also set up configuration from here. So there are like a bunch of settings. So let's just create a simple test file to check okay everything is working or not. Let's just create from here, and you can just say okay. So this is the first test. This is a test file called spec.cy.ts. It's automatically created by Cypress, and there is a test code like template spec, and there is a one test case which has been passed. So, and if you go to specs, then you will see all of your test code here. You can search by your test code name and also folder. Then if you have some component test code, then you can also find those things in here, like in the component specs tab. So if you go to E2E, then you will see all the E2E component for all the component, and also you can set up from here. So I'm not gonna do this right now. Now all of our graphical interface setup is done. So let's just look into the code that what actually Cypress automatically created. So if you go to your I go to my client folder, I can see there is a Cypress folder created automatically. So which and inside that there is a E2E folder which actually hold the Cypress test code that was run in here. So if I just change the URL to our URL, then let's see, then you can see that we'll go and check our URL. So let's just replace with this one, and let's go to the browser, and as you can see, it should go our page, and yeah, and it's showing that the test is passed. So this is a simple basic test which just check that a website URL is working or not. So we will go all the use case of Cypress in this video when we continue. So yeah, let's just say Now we have a fixture, which will basically a folder where you can put a lot of JSON data set. That's mean you can actually hold. So basically, it will actually hold all of your JSON data set that you can actually use in your Cypress test code to mock your API response and request. So this will hold all the things. And then in the support, there were like a commands file where you can add some custom commands, custom method to Cypress, and there were like another E2E test. So you can just basically initially you can ignore these things. When you need some sort of complex testing things, then you can actually come here and add some custom method which you must need to reuse. Then you can add those things here. So that's basically it. And another thing which is important, which is basically you will find into your client root folder, which is cypress.config.ts, where you can actually configure all of your settings. So if you go to web, the graphical interface, you can also see a setting options, and also you can see project settings, where you will find this one, yeah, resolve configuration. So this is basically hold the all of the property that you can actually add into your cypress.config.js. I think it's ts, yeah, because we are in a Typescript project, that's why it's like a ts file. So these are the property you can add. So let's just add a simple one. So if you click on edit, then you will actually basically it will take you on your config file. So let's just add this URL. So it should be in your E2E E2E scope, like it is a part of your configuration. So yeah, I think here. So let's just add this URL, and we're going to add the base URL from, let's say, yep. So I think our base URL is this. So let's just add this one. And what this base URL actually do, so let's just go to the code again. So in your test code, you don't have to specify the full URL anymore, because we already added the base URL. That's mean it will by default take this URL, and now you just have to pass your relative path as like login, admin, and / mean the home page. So now just go to and check. So if I run this test, then first it should go home page, then it should go the login page, then it should go admin page. I don't know if the admin page actually exists or not, but let's see. So I think it exists, that's why all the tests passed. And as you can see, if you look closely in your URL, like visited URL, you can see this one is the login, and that's like the home page. So yeah, and also you can check the URL from here. So this is kind of it. And the good thing is Cypress, you in the Cypress you can actually see the history of all of the test codes. It's Cypress actually tell is about, it's like time travel. That's mean you can travel each and every steps when actually a test case actually run. So that's kind of a good feature, I think, available in Cypress. Now let's try to add some more test case so that you can understand. Let's just add some basic test case like cy.contains. So first step, let's just name the test suite is going to be like homepage, and I'm gonna check that hero section. Let's just say hero section. So when this test case will run, then it will go to the homepage, and then we're gonna check there are text call games or not. Let's say, because I want to check this text. So if we go to our homepage, I should I want to check that there is a text called games or not. And also I want to check this text as well. As let's just say this text, my shortcut is not working, so I'm not sure why my shortcut is not working. So this is the text code I also want to check. So let's just rerun. So for rerunning your test, you will see a option in your top bar, this icon. So when you press this one, it will rerun all the tests. So right now, if we just explore all the if we travel all the steps, so first it actually visited the homepage, then it checks the games text, and then it check the other text that we actually added. So this is kind of like a basic configurations to actually experiment Cypress. Now I'm gonna actually show you how you can add more test case, and like how you can actually write all the test code that's necessary for your application to be a sustainable app. So yeah. So before we start, as you can see in our spec.cy.ts file, the first file we was created. So you can see there are some error showing in the Visual Studio Code. So this is basically the error from like Typescript. That's mean is that the Typescript type is not declared. So what you have to do is just simply you have to create a tsconfig file, tsconfig.json, and you have to add some configuration. So I'm just copying my older code so that you can I don't have to write each and everything. So this is basically the configurations that need to be in your ts.config.json file. And now if you reload VS Code, then the error should gone. So yeah. So this is the problem you can face if you just try to add Cypress test code on your existing project if the project is on Typescript. So here it is. Now let's just move into the part where we are gonna write down test code for all of our for our applications, and we will try to focus on each and every functionality so that you can understand better. So I'm gonna I will start with I think the home page first. So let's just delete this one, and also in the picture I'm gonna delete this file as well as we don't need that right now. So let's just I think I should copy the test code I already written earlier. So let's just grab it. So this is the this is the file which will hold all the test code for homepage. So I just grab. So now let's just comment out all the scope. Let's just tell you that what is basically all the thing like fundamentally, so that you can actually understand better. Now let's learn about some important method from Cypress, mostly in our test code. What is describe? So describe is a function that actually um, help you to write group related test code. That means when you have a functionality where you have to write multiple test code, then you need describe method. So describe have two argument. First one is the name. You can give any of that, and the second one is a function that will trigger when the test actually run. So you can say the describe method as a test suits. That's mean if in your test code there are like 20 describe method, then you can say you have 20 test suits. So now what is it block? So it block is basically another function that actually represent a individual test case. That's mean you have a feature, and in that feature there are tons of test case required. So each test case could be fit into your it block. So it's also kind of same as like as describe it took as a first argument, which is basically the name, and as a string you can give any string you want, and the second one is the callback function that will trigger when run all the tests. So this is basically kind of like test case. So we can say describe is a test source and it block as a single and specific test case. There are another thing that you can do with describe and it. You can actually nest describe and it block as much as you can, because when your app needs multiple layer of functionality, then you have to define nested test suits or like nested test case. So that time you like the nesting functionality of Cypress or any testing framework can help you to write nesting test case and test suits. Let's say we have a describe in the home page, then we can also nested it like this, and also we can do it like this kind of. So the nesting feature is kind of really helpful when you have multi-layer of functionalities to test. So now let's clear this section and try to explain our first test case. So our first test suite is basically for the home page, and our first test case is actually check that okay, our home page is rendered successfully, and we in the home page we have a text called find your next captivating gaming moment. So we have to check. So as you can see, we are going to visit our home page by the visit method provided by Cypress. So whenever you give any URL, Cypress will actually navigate to that URL in your browser. So the second method we used is Cypress cy.contains. So it is basically the command that actually searches for a specific text in your DOM element. It will actually give you the first element that have that text. If you want to apply some sort of text check, then contains is the best method to actually find that text that it is available in your DOM or not. So let's just save it and try to run that. Okay, our test case should pass. This is kind of it, like it actually go to visit the URL and it actually check that okay, it the text is contains or not, and if it contains, then it actually pass. So if I just change something from this text, then it should failed, because it will not the text is this, but in our search the text is something else. That's why you can see the test case actually failed. So this is basically the visit and contains method. We are gonna use contains method a lot and also visit a lot. Now let's just look into our second test case. So this test case will check because we have bunch of game in the list, and it will check that should display game card with images, titles, and review counts. That's mean now we're gonna check that okay, there should be a game list where there are images, titles, and there should be some reviews and all that stuff. So we're gonna check a game card that okay, all the criteria actually matched or not. So for doing that, we will visit first our home page, and then we can and then we are going to grab our breed. So now let's talk about cy.get method. So cy.get is another method, and I think the most important one. It will basically a selector method which will help you to select a specific element based on CSS selector. Let's say if you use JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript, you will see that in the get event listener selector you can add some CSS selector things. Let's say if you want to select with ID, you add hash. If you want to select with class name, you add dot. So this is kind of like the same scenario here. So if you want to test something, if you want to check something on Cypress, then there are two fundamental things you have to remember. The first one is you must have to select that element, and the second one is you must have to apply some assertion on that element, so that you can actually check what you are desiring or what you are actually expecting from that element. So the get method is kind of the first one, which will actually select your element from the DOM with the based on the CSS selector. And the second one, after the get method, you can apply assertion. So here the assertion is should. So that's mean we are gonna select the grid and we are gonna check that okay, the grid is exist or not. If I just say in simply, it is going to be you have to select something and then you have to apply some check on that thing. So the get will help you to select, and the should is kind of like a assertion command, and there are a lot. If you go to Cypress documentation, you will find a lot of method that will help you to assert something on a particular DOM. So should is one of them, and it actually, and there are like a different, there are like a tons of way you can actually apply into it. Let's say if I just clear the string and try, you can see in the Visual Studio Code it will suggest a lot of assertion command. So let's say we have to check have dot exist or like have dot text, so it will check that okay, we have a text or not. So there are like bunch of it, you can check it out, but right now we need only the exist assertion. So what that means, it will check the class name with grid element, and it will check, okay, it is exist or not. So if it exists, this line will pass. And the second line is kind of the same. It will check, it will go to the grid class, and it will check the call span one class, and then it will actually apply a assertion which will be have.length greater than 0. That's mean if it will check that, okay, we need the grid class and we need the call spans, then it will actually grab all the call span one class, and it will check that we have more than one or not. If not, then okay, we don't have any game. But if we have, then okay, we can say that okay, we have a game, then the test will pass. And the same thing kind of here as well, as the cy.get, it will actually look into the call span one, like the game card, but instead of gathering all the card, it will choose the first element, because we applied another assertion which will basically help to grab the first selector. So it is the method first is the method that will help you to achieve that. And then another one is dot within, which will also help you to limit your scope into a specific element. That's mean we are only going to check the first card of the game list that contains the class name of polyspan1, and also the wrapper of the parent class name should be grid. So within that scope, we are gonna check other test case. So the first one we're checking is there should be an image, and the image should have attribute of source, should include thumbnail.jpg. That means the image should include, the image source should include the text we are given. And now you can ask, what is the and method? So and method is basically help you to combine multiple assertion. That means we checked first here that the image should have attribute of source. Now we want to check another one, that okay, the image should include, and the source should include thumbnail.jpg in the text. So that's why the and actually help some scenario like this. You can check like cy.get image, which is basically okay, we are checking the image should have attribute of alt, and it should contain game image. This is basically if I go to the code from my client side, let's say, I think it should be somewhere in the game list, in the game card. So if you go to the game card, you can see there are a source, and there are also a alt attribute, which is actually game image. And the source of that image is coming dynamically from the database. So that, and I know that the image will contain the text thumbnail.jpg. That's why I added the check here. And also I know that the alt attribute have the text called game image. That's why I just add that check here. And then I also check that okay, the p.text large, that means I am checking here the title. The title should be visible and not empty. And then also I'm checking the description, that okay, it should be visible. So the description is like p.text small. So if you inspect the element, if I do here, you will see, let's just drag it a little bit so that you can see how I am actually grabbing those elements. So as you can see, we are grabbing p.text large. So you can see that we have a class name, and this is it. So we are grabbing it like we have to grab the p tag, and then with that p tag we need a class name called text large. Then we're grabbing that text, and then it should check that okay, it is visible or not, and if it's visible, then it should not be empty. And the same goes for the review as well. As so we're checking that okay, there should be a text called reviews. If that's so, then we are good. So this is kind of like the test case for the single card, and also that there are any game list or not. So now let's just save it and check that okay, test actually passed. You can see our second test case actually got passed, and it have multiple assertion. As you can see, it's first visited the URL, then it checked the grid, and it applied an assertion what is expected. Then it again goes to check another assertion, and then as we discussed, like the within, it will check all the assertion within that element, and it checked image, it checked the thumbnail, the ALT attribute, then it checked the paragraph tag, the description, and the review text. Now let's move into our second test source. Now let's take our login page test code from our older code base. So this is our login page test code, and let's just paste it into our E2E folder. And also we need two more things. One is the fixtures, and another one is the API routes. So let's just copy the API routes, and it's in the constant folder from our older project. So let's just paste it, and in the constants file you can see that we just define an object, and in the object we added all the backend server route. Let's say for login, then there are another API which will check that it's admin or not, like check moderator, then create moderator. And then we need fixtures, so I'm gonna explain it a little bit later. So just reload the app so that the type error will be gone. Now we need another thing which is fixture. So before I come into that, let's just comment out all the code so that I can go step by step. So let's comment out from this. Now let's understand what is before each. So before is basically a hook that runs before each test case. That's mean like before every it block run, it actually runs. It needs to be in a describe block, and it is commonly used to perform setup tasks like resetting a state or visiting a URL, or like setting up test data before each and every test. So in our case, we because we are testing login page, so we need to visit login page each and every test case. So to write the cy.visit login multiple time. So with using before each, we can actually reduce that things. Um, we can just add cy.visit/login in the before each, and each and every block, when each and every it block runs, it will actually run the before each. That means it will go to the login page and then apply the other test code. So now let's just uncomment our second section. Before understanding this one, you must have to understand our moderator feature in our applications. So basically in our applications, if you go to login page, then you will see you have to create an account. If there are no user created, then you have to create an account, and when you create an account, the account will be as a moderator. That means it will be an admin, and after that you cannot create multiple accounts. The application is kind of like this kind of feature, so you will not create multiple account. The first account you will create, it will be the admin or moderator. So each and every time in the login page, each and every time we actually call and check that okay, is there any moderator created or not. If there are any moderator created, then there will be no create page, and if there are moderator not created, then there will be an create page where user can come and create an account. So that's why we need to check, we need an API that will check that okay, moderator is exist or not. So this is the function for that basically, and it will actually call the API to check that either moderator is created or not. So now let's understand what is intercept is, because intercept is a command or method that we are going to use to mocking our API. The API means like the server API. So we have an API, and we need to mock that API. Let's say we have to mock the response, then we have to mock the body, so that we can test as our need. So if I say what actually Cypress.intercept do, So this is actually the command allows you to intercept and modify HTTP request and response made by your application during test. You can use it to spy on and mock or stop network request. So in this function, we are actually intercepting a GET request from this API route, and then we're actually mocking a response. And fixture is basically the way that you can actually mock the response. So Cypress provide a way to load test data from a fixture file. That's mean if you want to load some sort of mock data in your test code, then Cypress provide a fixture folder where you can put any kind of JSON file, and in that JSON file you can add those data, and you can mention those that JSON file into your intercept fixture option. So fixture file are typically stored in this folder, and it actually help you to mock data for testing. So for our case, for this API, we need a fixture file. I think we need two fixture file. Let's just copy those fixture file. So we have moderator exist and moderator not exist, and also the create moderator.json. These are the three fixtures that we will need in future. So okay, we just mistakenly created another tsconfig file here. Now as you can see in the create moderator JS, that's another JSON which will basically have two property. It seems like that, okay, it is going to be a response from some API. And if you go to another one, the moderator exist.json, which will return user exists true, and then the same one, it will return user exists false. It's basically the response like moderator not exist. So now because this is the API which will check that the moderator exists or not, and that's why we just make a function to actually dynamically pass the fixture name. So whenever this function will call, we will pass a fixture name that is available in our fixture folder. Let's say we are passing moderator exist.json name. That's mean when the function call, the API will call, and then it will return the moderator exists JSON from this fixture. And if we pass moderator not exist.json as a name, then the function will call the API and mock the moderator not exist JSON as a response from that API. So this is kind of it as you can mock a API. And there are another thing you have to understand, which is in after like the intercept method, you have to call another method called as, and you pass a string or name. So this is basically alias, which means like you can declare a API mock. You can declare a mock API, and you must have to provide a name for that mock API. That's mean whenever you need the API to call, you can actually call with that alias name, so that you don't have to write that API in that section. So I just give you an example of how you can actually use the alias to call that API. Let's say in our second test case, which will basically check should display login or create account based on user existence. That means this test case will check that, okay, when we go to login page, the login page should be login page, or it should be a create a moderator page. So that's for testing that things, we need to call an API that is, as I said earlier, that the check moderator API will call, and it will return a property called user existent. So if it's true, that means there are a user. That means we should see the login page, and if it's false, then there are no user, we should show the create page. So now as you can see, we call the function with the moderator exist.json. That means in this test case, I want to see there are a moderator, and I will write down all the related test case based on that things, because I am passing that, okay, I want to mock moderator exist. And then how I'm gonna call the API. We are going to use cy.wait method that will take an argument, and in the argument you can pass the alias name. And when you pass the alias name, it will basically call the API from from the intercept with the fixture as you mentioned, and then with the then block you will get the mock or the fixture or the response data after it got successfully. And if it fails, then you can actually grab that option by like a catch block. So if I say what is like the cy.wait method, so this is a command is used to pause the test until a certain condition is met. It can be used to wait for a specific amount of time or wait for a network request or element to be available. So right now we are using cy.wait as a network request to wait, but we can also use this one as a cy.wait, and we can pass any kind of number which will basically check for which will basically wait for that amount of time. So if let's say we are going to pass 1000, then it will wait for 1 second here. So this is how we actually use cy.wait, which is I think important, because sometimes we need to check that okay the DOM is loaded properly or not, or we have to wait for multiple API requests and so on. And also there are another option, you can pass an array of alias. That means you can pass multiple alias name here, so it will wait until it's actually finished all the API call. And if I explain this section of test, so this is basically checking that it will first call the API with the moderator exist.json response, and when the API is accessed and it actually responds, it actually give the response of this one like user exists true. And when we see the user exists, and you can grab the response from here like interception dot response dot body dot user exist. That means you will find the body of the response from from the data. So and we are checking that okay, is there any user exists, then we will check that in the page there should be a there should be the text called login. And if there are like no user, then it will check it will actually check that okay in the web page there should be a text called create. So if I just save this one and go to the login test code, let's try to run. And as you can see, our first code actually passed. And when before each, and as you can see there as a section which is called before each, this function which will trigger before all the test case. So first it actually visited in the login page, and it actually wait for that API check moderator. You can hover over and you will see that found an alias for check moderator. Then it will call that API from your server because it's like a mocking thing, so it will not call the API into your exact server. It will actually call as a mocking server. So then we actually check there should be login or create whatever. So how we use intercept and the fixture, and also cy.wait method to actually complete any sort of mocking API request to test our specific need. So now let's understand all of our other test code. Let's just uncomment this one. So this one will check should show error on login validation. That means this test case will check we are added any login validation or not. So if we click on the login page, as you can see, we are getting some validation error. So I'm gonna test that one with this test case. So first of all, it will call the API, the mocking API, the mock API, which will be moderator exist. That means we are gonna check our login page validation. So when this one will give user return true, then it will basically in the login page it will show you login page, not the create page. So that's mean with mocking this API, we can ensure that okay, we are in the login page. We are in the login page, and then it will grab the button by the get method, and then we are gonna click. So this is another assertion command which you can which will actually help you to click on some particular element. Let's say we are selecting the button, so then we can actually click on that button, and then after clicking that button, we're checking that in the screen there should be these two messages, like invalid email address, and then password must be 6 character. So if I just save and try to check that the test case passed or not, the test case actually passed. So let's just rerun this test case, or rerun all the test case. As you can see, before each, it actually goes to login page, then it click the button, and then it here is the click. It actually get the button, and then it actually waited for the API that we mocked and call, and then it actually clicked, and after click on that button, it actually checked there are a message called invalid email address or not, and then it actually checked the password validation as well. So this is how we actually test the validation. Now let's unwrap this one. So this one will check should show error on create moderator validation. That means this test case should check error on the account creation. So before this one, it was like to check the login validations. Now we're gonna check the account create validations, and in the account create validation there are another field which is called the name field. So it must have to check that there is a name field which is fill up or not, and that's why I just call the API with moderator not exist.js fixture. That's mean when the API will call, it will take the moderator not exist.json fixture. So that's mean it will return as this response, and in this response user exist is false. That's mean when it will go to the login page and it will call the API, it will see that there are no user, and that's mean in the login page there should not be login page, it should be create account page. And if that's so, I get the create account page, and I can actually validate I can actually check the validation for that page. So when the API got called, and then I'm grabbing the button and I'm clicking it, and then I'm checking the email and also the password and also the last one, which is the name. So if I just save and check that what actually last one did, so before each, it actually visited login page, and then it grabbed the button, and then as you can see, after calling that API, you can see there are 3 fields. When you click, there were 3 fields actually came and showing all the validation, and then it check email, password, and then the last one, which is name. This is how we actually added the validation check for our create account page. Now let's unwrap this test code. So if I just unwrap, so in this one we are checking should toggle the password visibility. That's mean if I go to the UI, there are a password visibility icon like icon. So if you just type something on the password input, you can also toggle it to check the text format and untoggle it to hide the password. So we're gonna test that things. So before testing this, we also need to call that API with moderator exist. That means we are checking it into our login page, and then we are getting a input. So now as you can see, I'm getting the input by the placeholder name. So you can get by anything, like you can get the input by ID or class name, whatever you like, but I prefer, okay, there are like not too much form in this page, that's why I choose to get that form by just by the placeholder name. And then I actually apply another assertion which is called .type. So type command is basically help you to type text into an input field. It used to interacting with text input in your forms or in your text area or any kind of form. So because we're testing the toggle icon, so we need to at least type something on the password section, or like password input. So that's why we grab that input, the password input box, and then we type password, any kind of text, and then we actually grab that toggle password icon. That's mean I set an ID for that icon, so whenever the icon render, it will get the ID. So I grab that icon with the name of the ID, like toggle password. That's why I use hash, and I just added the assertion with click. So it will get that icon and it will click on that icon. After we set a password, then it will check in the input field by grabbing the input field as I grabbed in earlier, and it will apply an assertion called .should have attribute, and the attribute on the type should be text. That means when you toggled on that icon, the input attribute of type should be text, and if it's text, then we are good. That means our first step for toggle the icon is working. Now we also check the value. So because we set a value before we click, so we can make sure if the value is equal to the same we did, then I think the test case should pass. That's why we just also added another assertion for have.attribute.value should be password 123. That's we type earlier, and if it gets passed, then kind of our first step is done for toggle. Now we are gonna click again on the icon, and then we must have to check that the input attribute into input type attribute should be password. It should not be text anymore, because we click first time it become text, and then we click again, then it should become password again. So this is how the logic actually goes for checking the toggle password icon. If I save this one, check the test case, then you can see we visited login page, then we grab the input element, then we check also the API. So then it will actually check call the API to get the response, and then it actually type on that input field, and then click. It actually get the icon to click, and then it click, and again it check on that field to have the property have the attribute is text or not. Then it again check the value, and then it clicked on the toggle button again to check that the attribute of that input field become password or not. So this is all the steps I did to check the toggle functionality. So now let's unwrap the second last one, I guess. Yeah, so this one, so in this test case we're checking should create an account for new user. That means we're creating an account for new user. First it will call the API with moderator not exist. That means yeah, we are allowed to create a new user. So then we did again we mock an API, which is this one. We actually added in the constant. It is like the route for creating an API, and then after creating that API, it should there should be a response as well as. So that's why we have a fixture called createModerator.json, which will basically return success as a true, and then the message that we want to show. We actually mock that API here, and then in the intercept method, the first element will take the API request, and the second argument will take the API root, and the third argument you can pass body or status code, or there are like other property as well as. So we're passing the status code, it should be 200, and the body we want to see this object. We can pass the fixture like the create moderator. We can also pass the object like this, so that we can get this object exactly from the API response. And then we also added a alias called create moderator, so that we can call this one and wait. Now before creating that API, we actually waited for check moderator, and then when we got the response from that API, we grab that response in a variable and we check there should not be any user. And if so, then we are gonna check, okay, the page should contain create account, and we grab the input field called name by the placeholder, we grab email, we grab the password, and we also apply some assertion like type the name, email, and password like this, so that we actually fill up our form. And when we fill up the form, we actually call the submit button, and we apply the click assertion, and then we actually wait to our main API that will actually the moderator create API, which will return the success true and the message created, please log in. This is how we actually wait for the API, and then in the then block we can get the response, and we're expecting the response should equal to 200. So expect is sort of another method that will take an argument which is kind of a data, and then you can apply some other assertion to check the data is expected or not. For our case here, we pass the status code and we check the status code to equal to should be 200. Then we check a message moderator created, please login. So this is basically a message from a toast. That's mean when the post request success, we show a toast. We showed a toast in the UI. That's why we want to check that toast actually rendered successfully or not. Let's save it and try to check that our test case pass or not. So as you can see, the last test case pass. If I go to the last one, it visited to the login page, then it checked the API, then it waited for it, then it checked okay, the page should be create account page, then it grabbed the element, type the input. It also goes for email and password, then it clicked the button, and after click the button, it actually waited for the create API, and then when it finished and it checked, as you can see, it checked the assertion expected 200 to be 200, and then it checked the message. So if I just run it again, then as you can see, in the last test case, you can see moderator created successfully. So in the last line, we actually check this message that we want to see after a user created an account. So this is how I actually write this test case logic. Now let's move into the last one and let's unwrap it. So this will check should login as existing user. That's mean there are if there are a user exists, then we want to log in. So we are not so that's mean we want to I want to check the login is successfully or not here. So the same goes here. We are checking the moderator API with the fixture called moderator exist.json. That means the moderator should be exist, and then we are actually mocking another API, which is basically the login API that we added in the API route constant. And in the status code we want to see 200, then in the body we want to see a token. I just added a simple mock token, and then we set a alias name which is login, and then this is how I just mock the API, and then I just grab email input, and then I grab the password input, and then I type on the email and password, and then I click the button, and then here I actually waited for finish the login API by the name of login alias, and then when it's when it got success, then we actually check that okay, the message should be login successfully in the UI or not. If so, then we also check the URL should not be login anymore because we logged in. It should be now /admin. So there are another method called URL which will check the browser URL, and then we can which will basically get the browser URL, and then you can apply some assertion like should or any other as we discussed earlier. We apply the should assertion and we check the URL should include /admin. So now let's just save it and try to check that the test case pass or not. And in the last one, as you can see, we are in the admin page after finish the test case. So let's just see step by step. So first it checked the check moderator API, then it grabbed those elements and type the email and password, then it click on the login button, and then it actually wait for the login API finished, and when it finished, it checked the message when it checked the toast message, and then it actually get the URL, and then it check the URL should be /admin. So this is basically the logic for check the login, and you can apply more assertion, more other check based on your requirement and your feature. So right now my login feature is kind of simple, that's why I think these are the code that's enough to test my login functionality. So now let's move into our next test suits, so which is going to be the moderator.cy.ts. so where we're gonna check that after login all the admin panel should be accessible for the user or the moderator. So let's just grab the file and paste it in our E2E testing, reload the window so that all the error gone, and let's just open the file. Let's just comment out all the section so that I can explain So in this page, we did the same as we did on the login. So we mock the API call check moderator, and then we also added a function to call the login page. And then in the before each, we actually logged in, because this is a feature that will come after login. So that's why we need to log in first every time. For that reason, we added the login functionality in the before each. That means whenever all the test codes run, before we will actually log in to the application. So we mock the login API, then we actually added all the input. One thing here, we didn't actually call login directly in the before each. So sometimes because we have some check that we want to check that without login, what are the page we can access or what are the page we cannot access. We just finished by wrapping the login API and typing all the form informations, but we didn't log in. But we added a function that whenever we will call the login function, it will actually log into our admin panel. So let's just unwrap each and every test case. So this one will check admin login successfully. That means it will check the login should successfully or not. That we already checked in login page, but it's still we added that in our moderator page. Then it will check all the menu is accessible or not. That means after login, we have to check there are like 3 or 4 menu that is accessible for a moderator. That means he or she need to log in. So that's why we are checking those things into this test case. So for we actually logged in first. After login, the URL should be admin. That means after login, we should go into admin URL directly, and then we click on the home card. Means I think this is basically, if you go to the moderator page and if we log in, and there is a let's say in the second one, I think let's just save it. And we have 2 of the test case. So home card is basically this one. So after login, we want to check the home card to see that we are by clicking the home card, we should move into the base URL or the home URL. That's why we actually click on the home card. And how I selected the home card is basically I added a ID on that particular element. That's why I grouping the element by ID. And then we check, after clicking the home card, we should go to home page, and then we will click. So you can see that cy.go is another method that will help you to go back as a URL. So if I go to GameZoneX, now how we can go back. So that's why cy.go help to go back to that page again. So when we click on the home card, it will go to home page, then it will go back to that admin panel again, and then it will grab the game list card, which is I think this one. And then after clicking that card, it should lead you to the game list, this page where all the game are listed, all the review are listed. You can edit, you can add, you can do all the card operation in the game list. So that's why this URL we're trying to see that this URL is actually accessible or not. Then we actually go back again, then we go back again and come to check the map page. Before that, after coming from the game list, we should see the admin URL in the browser. So we check that, and then we click on the last one, which is review in map. And after clicking that one, the URL should be in map, and then we go back again to check the URL is admin or not. So this is checking all the accessible URL that is accessible for as a moderator. And for accessing this page, you must need to log in. So that's why we actually added this test case to check all the menu. Now let's move into the third one, which is it checked the logout functionality. So if you go to the UI, you can see there are the logout button. So now we want to check, after clicking the logout button, it should log out. So after logout, cannot access all the menu that we already access after login. So that's why I'm gonna check this one. So that's why first we log in and we check that we are in the let's just save it to login. If we go to the second page, then I think this one, so you can see in the admin panel there are logout button. So after login, we check that we should move into the admin. Then we are grabbing the logout button by actually the ID. I actually added a ID into that button so that I can grab that easily, and then I clicked it, and then it should show the message logout successful. Then after logout, I should go to the home page. So this is how I check the logout functionality. Now let's just unwrap this one, the last one, which will basically check all the protected menu not accessible when log out. That means when you actually log out, you cannot access the admin panel, you cannot access the map, you cannot access games. So that's why I have to add the test case to check all the protected routes is protected. For doing that, I actually, in this test case, I didn't log in. As you can see, the other test I log in first, but in this test case I didn't log in. So what I did, I just tried to visit on the admin panel, and I actually passed another property as a option, which is fail on status code false. That means if I just simply pass admin and just like this, it will not go to /admin page because it's not accessible. It will redirect you to the login page. That's why I have to add this option to make sure, okay, we are trying to visit that page, but it actually failing. That's mean we can catch the redirection by this option property. So now we added this one in the admin when we are visiting in the admin. Then now we can actually check, okay, after visiting to the admin, it actually redirect to our login page or not. So that's mean without login, when you try to access admin panel, it should redirect you as a login page. And the same case happened with the map. We try to visit the map with the property so that it can actually get the redirection. And then we also check that, okay, the after visiting the map URL, it should redirect to the login URL. So that we check this one, and also it's actually checked it for games. So this is how I actually check all the protected route after like without login you cannot access the protected route, and also the logout functionality, and okay, all the menu are accessible or not, and kind of it. So this is the moderator.cy.test file where we're actually checking moderator functionality. So if I just save this one and try to check that all the tests are successfully should pass. So as you can see, the first one is admin login successfully or not, the second one all the menu, then the third one actually the logout functionality from admin panel, and the last one is checking all the protected route without login, and which is I think game list and review. Let's bring that file here and let's try to understand. So before let's just reload the window so that all error gone. So let's just comment all the test case to understand step by step. This test source is basically for checking game list and game review. Before checking all the thing, we mock a API, which is the same one we did in our login page, which is basically the check moderator API. That's mean before checking any of those things, we must need to call the API to ensure that there are moderator exist or not. So that's why we just added that function here. Then we created another function which will basically grab a button element and it will click on that button element, and then it will wait for a API. The alias name is login. We didn't declare that API yet, but we just call the wait method and added the name. Now let's just uncomment this one. This is basically the before each function. So before each function, we are calling the API, the intercept check moderator. So it is call the API, then we will visit the login page, then we will call the login API with all the input field we fill up here, like the john.example.com, the email, the password, and then we call the function called login. So it will check that button, it will grab that button, and it will actually wait for the login API to finish the login. So because this is kind of like a page where when we are going to check the game list and review, that means we must have to log in. So that's why in the before each check function we added the login functionality here. That means each and every test before each and every test run, we must have to log in our applications. So that's why I just added this block. I'll just move forward to unwrap this one. So this one will check game list should display game card with image, title, and review count. So this is kind of similar one we did in our home page, but right now we are checking after the login page. In the login page, that's mean after login, then we are checking. We are going to the home page after login, and then we check the same thing like the game card here. If I just unwrap this one, so this one check that game list should check hover effect on game card. So in the home page, we didn't actually check the hover effect for the card because because if you go to our home page, then you will see we have a good hover effect when we hover over any game card. So that's why we're gonna check that okay, the hover effect is working or not. So that's why we have to visit it in the home page, and after that we're actually grabbing an element with college pen, and inside that we have a div, and we're gonna grab the first element. That's mean we are grabbing the card which have the hover effect, and then we're actually triggering mouse over. So it's actually another method or assertion that we can apply in our Cypress test code after grabbing an element. So we grab that card and we actually trigger the action called mouse overs. That's mean when we hover over a mouse, the action is kind of mouse over. So after that, because we hover over the element, then the element should have a class called the hover effect that we added to actually show the hover effect. And this is how you can actually check any kind of hover effect in your applications. Now let's just unwrap this one. So this one is check game review should render game review page. So now if you go to our application, if you click on a game card, you can see the game review page. So I want to check that okay, the game review page successfully rendered or not. So that's why I go to visit. I visited the home page, then I just grab the first card and I click on that card. That's mean if I go to the home page and I click on any card, then it will navigate to the game review page. That's why I applied that test case here. Now then after clicking on the first card, it actually checked that okay, the URL should include a review. That's mean as you can see, when you go to the review page, you will see /review and the ID, and we also want to check the ID is actually added on the URL or not. So that's why we actually grabbed that URL, and then we applied another assertion called the expect that I discussed in the login file. It will check the URL and it will match a regular expression to check that there should be a ID, and the regular expression is kind of like it will check there should be A to Z, all kind of letter, and 0 to 9 number digit. So it will basically check this kind of like ID, and when it so if it found, then if the ID found and with the review /review relative path in the URL, then this test case is actually got passed. Now let's unwrap this one. So this one will basically check game review should submit a review. So this test case, we're actually submitting a review and we're checking that okay, submitting a review is working or not. So we visited the home page, and before in this section you can see when we are visiting the home page, and we added a second argument on the visit method, and in the argument we are passing a function, and this is kind of like a default behavior if you want to apply. So if you look into the visit method, you can see there are a URL, then there are a option property where you can pass some options, and the option property will take a bunch of property, but we are gonna use on before load. So on before load is a function that is triggered before the URL actually got hit on the browser. So when we actually navigate to home page, we want to set something. That's why we actually call the on before load. So what we're setting actually location. So in our application submitting a review, we must need a user to turn on their location. So that's why I'm just mocking the location before I'm just going to the home page. So as you can see Cypress actually provide you a method called a stub where you can actually mock your location. There are a field you will find from the on before load function, which is navigator, and you will got the geolocation method from that navigator, and you have to pass what you are actually setting. So we are setting the current position, and we are calling another method that calls argument with 0, and we are actually passing the coordinates latitude and longitude. So this is how actually we can set latitude or longitude or a location before we go to a URL or visit a URL. Now we set it our location, then it will not give any location related error. Now after visiting that page, like the home page, we are actually grabbing the first card and we are clicking on that card, and then when we click on that card, we actually come into the game review page. And now as you can see in the page, we have 3 field and also another field, so which will allow you to give a rating on your game. So right now as you can see, it's showing that location is required, please turn on your browser for the tab, but it will show every time if you don't turn on the location. But we mocked the location here, so the test case will pass. So then after typing those form, like we type our email, then we type the name, and then we also type in the placeholder like so, and we also type in the text area like this. We grab the text area by placeholder, and then we type on the text area which is nice game, loved it. So we fill up the form, and then we actually get the rating. So this is basically how I actually get the rating. Is kind of like fieldset.get.rating is kind of a class name of all of those things. Like they both all of those star icon have the class name with this. So we grab all the star, and then we grab the number 4 star. So we also added some sort of label on each star. So the first one have the star 1, the second one the label will be star 2. So that's why we're actually grabbing all the rating star, and then we are finding with the label with star 4. That's mean we're actually finding this one. And then after grabbing the 4th number of star, we actually click on that star to actually make sure the rating. So when we click on that star, it actually set the rating. And then after clicking on that star, we actually click on the submit button. We also provide the rating. Now we're actually clicking on the submit button, and after submit the button, we're actually checking there should be a text called thank you for your review, and it's kind of like message, yeah. And then we also check the review with the name of John, and the description is available on the list or not. So after you submit a review, you can see all the review list. And because we added a review with the name called John Doe and the description with this one, that's mean after submitting that review, we must show the name and the description. So that's why we actually added the last 2 lines to check that okay, the review actually submitted successfully or not. So let's just try to save this one and check that all the tests pass or not. Let's go to the specs, because we already added game list and review cy.test. So let's just try to run this one. So these are the all tests that I discussed, and as you can see, the last one it actually go to the login page. This is the before each function actually triggered, and then we actually we visited home page. After login, we visited home page, then we selected a card, then we actually go to the review page. As you can see in the function, it actually mocked the location here, and then it actually fill up all the input, and then it actually click on the rating. As you can see, we point out the fourth number of star, and then it actually click the submit button, and after that, as you can see, it show the message called thank you for your thank you for your review. And then it actually when the review actually placed, it actually showing on the all review list, and then we check the name and the description. So this is how I actually added the logic to check okay, this is how actually the game review test actually passing. So now the last one which I added in the file, which is game review should delete review from admin panel. So because we submitted a review, that's mean the review is actually in the list. Now we want to delete that review to check that okay, the review is created successfully. Now we can also delete that review. So for that, we are actually visiting the game page, and I will explain those things later. We are visiting actually the game page, and in the game page we are actually, so let's just save it, and then I will explain how that's what's happened. So let's just wait to pass come to last one, and as you can see, the last one, it actually logged into our admin panel. As you can see, the login functionality ran in the before each, then it go to games URL. So in the games URL, it's actually a admin URL. So after login as an admin, you can go to games. You can go to games, where you will find all the games are listed. You can add games, you can delete games. So we're actually visiting the game game page, and then we're actually trying to find out with the review that actually have the mail called john.example.com. So if I go to code, then as you can see, we are actually getting the review by a data attribute. So if I go to my client folder in the game review, I think in the moderator page, and I think in the game list file, then you will see where we actually rendered our game review. So here you can see we are rendering reviews. So for rendering a review, we have a button in the UI which is delete review. So if I go to the delete review button, which is this one, and as you can see in the button we have a data attribute called review email. That means we are actually adding the reviewer email into the button attribute review email. So the reason, because we are adding this to grab this button with exact email name, to grab this button to click on that button actually. And if we don't add this one, then there are no option to get the exact button we want to click. So that's why I just added a data attribute with the exact email of the reviewer. And now if I go to the test code, then as you can see, we get the element by the same data attribute review email with the email that we actually mark when we actually submit a review. That means we submitted a review with john@example.com. Now we want to delete the review with the email called john@example.com. There could be multiple review by john@example.com. So that's why we grab all the review by this email, and then we choose the first one to click and delete the first one. So what I did here, we just grab that element and we call the then function to get all the element, and then we loop over from all the elements. So wrap is kind of another Cypress method which will basically wrap a DOM element. That's mean it will strict to a particular element. That's why we just wrap all the element into a group, and now we actually apply for each, like we're actually looping through all the element, and when we're looping through all the element, we get the single element. That's mean we get the single review with the name of John, and then we actually click on that review. Then we wait for 500 milliseconds to actually delete that review, and then we check, okay, the review deleted successfully or not. And after that, our test case is finished. We are not checking all the review with this email, so we are just checking the first one, and if we get the first one, we are just deleting that one because we already created that review by actually this email. So if I just save this one and go to the UI, you can see the first test case actually check the image titles and review, the second one check the hover effect, the third one actually check the review page, and the fourth one actually submitted a review. And because we submitted a review with the email, now we can actually delete the email by actually applying the test case. So that's why I just added the test case step by step. To first we check the review page, and then we actually fill up the form with the mocking location, and then we submitted a review. When we submitted a review, we should see in the review list, and then because it's the review submitted, then we are going to go to the game list from admin panel. Then we have a review, then we want to delete the particular review. So that's how we actually check the entire full flow of the game list and the game review, and also we check from the admin panel that okay, the game review is deleting and the game review we added, that is rendering successfully. So now let's check our game functionality is working or not. That's mean our game CRUD functionality, that because it's a game review app, we want to check, okay, an admin can add a game, he or she can edit the game and delete the game. So I want to add test code for this one. So let's just copy the file from our older project, which is add edit game.cui.ts, and paste it in our project. Let's just reload the file, and as you can see, there are some test code. Let's just comment all the test case. So this is going to be the test source for add edit games. That means it's gonna check adding a game is successful or not, editing a game is successful or not. So before testing this feature, we also need to call the check moderator API, what we did in the home, in the login, in the moderator. So this is kind of a common API mock that is needed every time. And also we need to log in. That's why we just declared all those function. And the before each, because we're testing because we're testing the feature in our admin panel, that's mean we have to log in, and then we can actually test the feature. So that's why in the before each, what I did, I just call the moderator function, and then visited to login page, intercept, mock the login API, and fill the input for the login credential, and then login, and then I visited to the games list. That's mean before each and every test run for this file, it will actually log in and go to game page. So that's mean if you go to the UI, let's just go to the add game list. Oh, there are no test shows, I think. So if I just comment the first test case and show you what it is. So in the before each, we are going to game list, and the game list is basically this page where we can see all the games are listed. We can create the game with the button called add game, and we can also edit the game, we can delete the game. So we're gonna test this page, and we're gonna write test case for this page, and we'll write all the functionality for this page. Now the first test case is check add game validation. So it will check before creating a game. There are some validation, which is like game name, game image, and description. We're gonna check those things, and then we're gonna check, okay, the validation are working or not. So we are grabbing the button, which is this one. When we click on this button, it should open a pop-up model, and then in the pop-up model there are a button which will actually submit the form, and we're not filling any of the form information, and we're just clicking on that button to check, okay, the validation is working or not. Let's just save it and check. As you can see, there are a model open, and when we click on the save, it will show all the validation. We are actually checking that validation here by actually using the contains method. And after finishing the check, we're actually closing the model by actually clicking on the close. So when you close the model, when you click on the close, it should close the model. That's why we actually grab the cancel button and we click on that. So it will basically check the validation, then it will close the model. Now if you go to the next one, which is check add new game. So right now it will check. So sorry, if I just so let's just uncomment the second one. Oops, this will be something like this. Yeah, so in this test case, we're checking it should add a new games. So for adding new games, we must have to click on the add games, then we have to fill up all the information, then we have to save. So for that case, we are grabbing the button, which is this one, and then we're clicking on that button, then we grab the input with the placeholder game name, game image, and the text area. So we're actually grabbing all the three elements, and then I actually type the game name, and also I type the image URL in the game image field, and then I type the description of that game, and then I grab the save button and click on that button, and it should, after clicking that button, it should create a game, and also it should show a toast game created successfully. So that's why I just added this line to check, okay, the game has created successfully. So if I just save this one, it should create a game. So if I just close this, as you can see, we have just the first game is PUBG Battleground. So if I just save one, then it should create another game. So first it actually checked the validation, then as you can see, after the PUBG, it actually created the game. We added all the description and the images on the thing. So this actually makes sure that, okay, our adding a new game is working. Then we actually check edit games validations. That means because we already created the game, now we want to check, okay, we can edit the game. So we have to check, okay, the validation is working or not in the edit mode, and also it is editing, and the game is editing or not. So for that case, we are grabbing the edit button by like this edit button, and as you can see, we have also a data attribute called edit game, and we are grabbing all the edit buttons from the game list, and then we are actually loop throughing all the button, and we are actually grabbing the first button, and then we are clicking on that button like this. So we wrap all the elements implement like all the edit button with the cy.wrap method. Then we apply the assertion called first to get the first edit button, and then we click on that button. So then after we click that button, it should open the model. So we clicked, then the model opened, and now we can check, okay, we are clearing all the property. Let's say if I click on the button, we are clearing all the field input. That's how we can actually test, okay, in the edit mode the validation is working or not. There are a method called clear method, which will basically, after you grabbing the input, it must be a input field. Then the if it's not an input field, then the clear method will not work. So we grab the all the input, and we actually clear all the text, and then we actually click on the save button to check, okay, the validations in the edit mode are working. For that case, we click, and after click that button, we are actually checking with the contains method that all the validation is showing or not. And if all the validation is showing, then we just click on the cancel button to close the edit mode. And if I check, then it should also pass. So the third one is the last one. We are checking that, okay, the validation should show. And I think one will be failed because in the second one we are adding game, because the game is already added, the lost arc 2. That's why the second one is actually failing. So throughout the full test case of this file, we will also delete the game we already created in the second test. So because we are not reach the delete game test case, that's why what did happen, the game is already created. That's why it cannot create the same game with the same name multiple times. That's why we're actually getting we are actually failing the test case here. So don't worry, when we just unwrap the delete game test case, the error will be gone. So let's just try to edit our games, because we already checked the edit validation working or not. Now let's just try to edit our created game. So for edit our game, we are actually loop through all the edit button. We are getting all the edit button, then we are actually clicking the first edit button, and then when it actually open the model, what we are doing, we are first clearing the game name, we are clearing all the input field, and we are actually editing that. Let's say we cleared that, then we added lost arc to edited. That means we cleared the old text, and we added another extension of text like edited. And then the same goes for description. We are not clearing, we also clear the image, so that we can check, okay, image is also editing or not. So we also edited the description, and when we fill up all the form information with the new one, like the edited one, then we actually press save button to check, okay, game actually submitted or not. And then we check cy.contains, okay, the game updated successfully or not. Let's just save it and check, okay, the last test case actually passed or not. You will see the second one will be failed, because you cannot create you can see the duplicate game is not allowed, because we didn't delete the oldest game. And as you can see, the last one, which is basically checking the edit actually passed or not. And as you can see in the last one, if you just go to the game list, as you can see, when the last test goes run, the game title, game description has changed. The title actually changed to edited, the description added the edited text as we added in our test code. So that's mean our edit game is working, and as you can see, all the test codes actually pass. Now let's just unwrap the delete one. That's mean, because in this file, first we actually check the add games validation, then we added a game, and we check edit validation, then we edit that game. So we didn't yet delete the game. That's mean without this test case, if we run, then our second test case will be failed, because this will when the second test case will run, it will try to create the same game that we did earlier. That's mean for properly passing all the test case, we must need to add this delete test case. So throughout the process, it will create a game, then it will check that the game creation is okay or not, and then it will try to edit the game, and it will check, okay, edit is working, then it will basically delete the game. So this is the last test code actually for, and we are grabbing the delete button as the same we did for edit button. We grab all the delete button from the list, and then we are choosing the first one because we created recently. That's mean our recent game will be the first because it's actually ordered by it's actually in order, which means the last one we created will come first, and that's why we're choosing all the button, grabbing all the button, and we're actually choosing the first button, and we are actually clicking on that button. And after clicking that button, the game should be deleted and it should show the message called game deleted successfully. That's why we just apply the context method. And if I save this one now, the second one will be failed for right now, but all the tests will be passed. And after that, okay, the second one actually passed because I think the when we refresh, it actually deleted earlier. So that's why what happened here, the old game which we were created earlier, that was gone, and that's why we actually that's why all the process, all the step actually passed successfully. So if I go to manually and go to admin and go to the game list, as you can see, we have lost our to edited, which is edited version. But if I just refresh, I don't know, I think if I just refresh this one, okay, if I just refresh, then all the tests should run again. It will check. So if you go to the delete method, so that you can see it actually grabbing the deleted one, and then it I think the issue is we have, let's just go to this one, I think. Okay, so throughout the process we didn't when we uncomment the delete test case, so when we are testing our first add new game test case, that time it actually created a game which is Lost Ark 2. So we have to delete this one, and we will go back to our initial stage where we are only the game PUBG, where the last game. So now if I just try to run all the test case, then it will create a game with the Lost Ark 2, and then it will edit the game with the text we provided on the edit section, and then it will delete the game. So you'll not see the Lost Ark game is available in your game list. It shows actually the deleted message. So if I just run it again, then all the process will follow the same. It will check the validation, it will add the game with Lost Ark 2 name, and it will edit that game, and then it will delete that game. So this is kind of the same flow. That's mean if you just try to remove this test case, then sometimes the second test case will be failed because you are not deleting the created game, and because you are not deleting that game, it will throw error because you cannot create duplicate game with the name. So this is how add and edit games work in our application, and how you can actually add all the test case for this particular file. So now let's move into our last test code, which will basically test our map page. So let's just copy the file and paste it in our folder and reload it. So in the map page, if I just save it and try to check all the test case are passed. And in the map page, basically if you go to the admin page and you will go to the review in map, then you will see there are a map is actually rendered, and all the map in the map you will see some marker which will show you the location, that okay, this is the location for Lost Ark game, and the email and the rating. That's mean the person with the email is actually give a review from this location, and we will show all the review in a map. So this is kind of like that feature. So now we're actually we will write the test codes for this feature. So if you let's just I think uncomment all the test code, and let's just say we did the same thing, like check moderator and then the login function which will log in, and then in the before each what we have to do, because we are checking the map URL, so we have to log in and then we have to go to the map URL. So that's why we just check moderator, then login, we mock the API, same to same, we and fill up the form, we log in, and we go to the map. And then the first test case will be should render the leaflet map. So because rendering the map, we are using a library called leaflet, so we have to make sure in our first test case that okay, our map is rendering correctly or not. So for doing that, we just have to check in an element which actually holding this ID, like ID map container. So if in that page there are any element with the ID called map container, and it should, if it exists and if it's visible, then that means we can say, okay, our map is rendered successfully. If we just save it, then it will only run our first test code, which will basically grabbing the map container, the full container, and it is checking, okay, it is visible or not. So if it's visible, the map is visible, then our first test code should pass. The second one we're testing is should render the map and display markers. So that's mean in the map we want to test, okay, because it's rendered successfully, now we want to check, okay, there should be some marker in the map. So for that case, we are grabbing all the marker, because this marker have a specific class name, and which is leaflet marker icon. That's mean this one, if it's rendering, and there are the class name with that marker. So we are grabbing all the marker, and we are checking, applying the assertion that, okay, it should have at least one marker. So in the map there should be this class name with the marker, and all the markers. So from all the marker, it should have at least one. So if that's so, then it will pass the first one, and then we are checking because if the marker is rendering successfully, then we are checking, okay, the marker should visible. So first we check the marker length. That means the map should be at least one marker, and then we are checking, okay, the marker is visible or not, by actually looping through all the marker and actually applying the assertion called be visible. So if there are marker, then it should be visible. So if that's so, we actually passing the second one, and if I just open the third one, which will basically should open a pop-up when a marker is clicked. That's mean if you see closely that after rendering those marker, if you click on the marker, it should open a pop-up and it should show some data. So that's what we are going to test here. So first it will check all the marker, and it will grab the first one, like the class name, as we did earlier. It is grabbing all the marker by the class name, and then we are grabbing the first one we get, and then we are clicking on that marker. So first time when I added the click method, it was not working. I don't know why. So then I added a property called force true, and when I added this one, then it actually clicking perfectly. So that's why it's actually working that time, and that's why you can see the property. So if you face the same problem to some particular element that, okay, it is not clicking, then you should try with the force true property, or like force true option. And then because we are grabbing the first one, the first marker, then we are clicking on that marker, then the marker should show a pop-up. That's mean when you click on the marker, it should show the pop-up, and the pop-up have a class name like this one, leaflet that pop-up. So that's mean when you click on that marker, then we are grabbing the pop-up with the class name, and we're checking, okay, the pop-up is visible or not. So if it's visible, then okay, we are good. We check the marker available, we check the marker is visible, then we click on that marker, and we actually showing, okay, the pop-up is rendering. So if I just run all the tests, and all should pass, and as you can see in the last stage, it was just open the pop-up and check the last test case. So this is basically how I just write the test code for the map, testing the map. And if you have a feature like this, you can also write down the test code, something I did here. Most of the time when you are using third-party library, there should be, when it's rendering in the UI, there should be some class name, there should be some ID. So you have to figure out those ID to grab that element, and you have to apply the assertion which will actually you want to trying to test. So this is it for review map. Now I think if I go back to our all the test list, and as you can see, we write test case for add and edit games, then we write test case for game list and review, then the home page, then the login, moderator, and reviews map. So now let's try to check all of our test case is actually passing or not, because in the UI you cannot check that, okay, all our test case is passing or not. You have to check those things by clicking manually in your test case file. So let's just run a command which will help you to basically test all the file are just passing or not. So for doing that, if you go to the client project folder, and in the package.json file, you will see a command that will help you to run all the tests, which is cy:\test, which will basically run npx cypress run. So whenever you enter this command, it will try to run all the tests in a headless mode, so that it will not open a browser or doing all the thing that we see earlier. It will just run the the test case in a terminal mode with a headless browser. So now let's go to our client folder to check, okay, all the tests are running perfectly or not. So npm run cy test. This one is the script I just added. You can also try npx cypress run, both work fine. So let's just try to run this and let's see all of our tests actually pass or not. If you look closely, that you can see run is starting. There are Cypress, you will show the version, you will see the browser, which is Electron, and it's headless. That means it will not open a browser directly. It will do the work, same work in the terminal. So if you now go down, then you will see there are it will apply the test case file by file. So this is the first file which have 6 test suits, which have 6 test case. Then all are passing, and it took 60 seconds. You can see the results if you go down. So sometime you will see that, okay, some tests will fail. Now as you can see here, in our report in the add game, which is passing all the tests, there are 5 test case, 5 are passing, game list working fine, home is working fine. But in the login there are 6 test case, 5 are passing, 1 is getting failed. And also moderator, all are passing, review, all are passing. So there are 6 test suits and all the test case actually passed. There are 25 test case, but 24 actually passed, but 1 is actually getting failed. So let's just look into the one which actually got failed. So this is the one, should display login or create account based on user existence. So why it is failed? It is failed because of Cypress error, timeout, retrying after 50 milliseconds. So this is basically a common error in Cypress. So whenever you are mocking an API, sometimes it will give you error because the API is actually waiting for a little bit more time. That's why you are saying that, okay, there are some timeout error. So what you can do here, you will find a Cypress config file in your client folder, in your client project, and as you can see in here, and you can add a option. So the option is basically retry. So in the config, in the top of the config, you will find a retries property where you can add any number. So that's mean if your API or some sort of if some API in your test case are failing with the timeout error, then it should try again. It should try until your retry is actually over. That means if you added retries 3, that means it will try the API call for 3 times, and it will actually wait. If the first time failed, then it will apply it for second time, then third time. So most of the time, if you just added retries 3, most of the time all of your API should pass. If not, then you have to add another property which will be help you to increase the timeout for waiting for a particular API. Right now the default is 5 milliseconds, like 5 seconds. If one API failed, that means if you call API, then it will wait for 5 seconds to get the response. So because it's like a Cypress mocking things, so I think it is actually coming from the issue is sometimes coming from Cypress to get the API call and getting the response. So I think from my case, retry adding 3 for retries work perfectly. So I think in your case you have to check the particular error, why it's happening, and you have to resolve that error. So let's just try to run again. Now it should pass all the tests, and you will see that when it got failed, it will try again to rerun the test code to pass the test code. And this is where we actually failed multiple times. Like this is the login file where it actually failed the first test case, and as you can see, attempt 1 of 4. That's mean when it got failed the first time, then it tried again the test case, and as you can see, it's showing that, okay, out of 4 it actually tried twice, and the second time it actually got passed, and you can see it's actually passed. So you will also get the screenshot of that error, that okay, where you are exactly getting the error. And if you go to the Cypress folder, you will see a screenshot folder which is automatically created by Cypress, and as you can see where it actually got failed, so it is actually failing on the wait moment. So it will give you a screenshot of that moment. So and most of the time retries actually works, and as you can see, for our case it's also work. And we have total 25 test case, we have total 25 case, and all the test cases passed and all specs passed. So this is how you can just run and check all the test case are passed or not, and you can see a good UI kind of things to check the report. And it will also show you the time that test case actually took what time. So it took 16 seconds, it took 9 seconds, homepage took 800 plus millisecond. Then yeah, so this is like a simple report or things to check all the tests pass or not. So by achieving this, you can either add a custom command in your package.json file as I did, cy::test, or you can just simply type npx cypress run and hit enter, then it will work as well. As so if I just try to run it, and sorry, then it should also work. Oh yeah, you can ignore this error. This is kind of like DevTools related error. So it will basically try to run all the test case again and just check pass all the tests pass or not. So this is kind of it, that you can check all the test code. And the other way is the graphical interface, where you can check file by file that okay, this file is feature by feature, this file is working or not, this file test code are working or not. I think both are the way is really good to check with different purpose. So I think that's it. So now let's move into our last test code, which will basically test our map page. So let's just copy the file and paste it in our folder and reload it. So in the map page, if I just save it and try to check all the test case are passed. And in the map page, basically if you go to the admin page and you will go to the review in map, then you will see there are a map is actually rendered, and all the map in the map you will see some marker which will show you the location, that okay, this is the location for Lost Ark game, and the email and the rating. That's mean the person with the email is actually give a review from this location, and we will show all the review in a map. So this is kind of like that feature. So now we're actually we will write the test codes for this feature. So if you let's just I think uncomment all the test code, and let's just say we did the same thing like check moderator and then the login function which will log in, and then in the before each what we have to do, because we are checking the map URL, so we have to log in and then we have to go to the map URL. So that's why we just check moderator, then login, we mock the API same to same, we and fill up the form, we log in and we go to the map. And then the first test case will be should render the leaflet map. So because rendering the map, we are using a library called leaflet, so we have to make sure in our first test case that okay, our map is rendering correctly or not. So for doing that, we just have to check in an element which actually holding this ID, like ID map container. So if in that page there are any element with the ID called map container, and it should, if it exists and if it's visible, then that means we can say okay, our map is rendered successfully. If we just save it, then it will only run our first test code, which will basically grabbing the map container, the full container, and it is checking okay, it is visible or not. So if it's visible, the map is visible, then our first test case should pass. The second one we're testing is should render the map and display markers. So that's mean in the map we want to test okay, because it's rendered successfully, now we want to check okay, there should be some marker in the map. So for that case, we are grabbing all the marker, because this marker have a specific class name, and which is leaflet marker icon. That means this one if it's rendering, and there are the class name with that marker. So we are grabbing all the marker and we are checking applying the assertion that okay, it should have at least one marker. So in the map there should be this class name with the marker, and all the markers so from all the marker it should have at least one. So if that's so, then it will pass the first one. And then we are checking because if the marker is rendering successfully, then we are checking okay, the marker should visible. So first we check the marker length. That means the map should be at least one marker, and then we are checking okay the marker is visible or not by actually looping through all the marker and actually applying the assertion called be visible. So if there are marker, then it should be visible. So if that's so, we actually passing the second one, and if I just open the third one, which will basically should open a pop-up when a marker is clicked. That's mean if you see closely that after rendering those marker, if you click on the marker, it should open a pop-up and it should show some data. So that's what we are going to test here. So first it will check all the marker and it will grab the first one, like the class name as we did earlier. It is grabbing all the marker by the class name, and then we are grabbing the first one we get, and then we are clicking on that marker. So first time when I added the click method, it was not working. I don't know why. So then I added a property called force true, and when I added this one, then it actually clicking perfectly. So that's why it's actually working that time, and that's why you can see the property. So if you face the same problem to some particular element that okay it is not clicking, then you should try with the first true property or like first true option. And then because we are grabbing the first one, the first marker, then we are clicking on that marker, then the marker should show a pop-up. That's mean when you click on the marker, it should show the pop-up, and the pop-up have a class name like this one, leaflet that pop-up. So that's mean when you click on that marker, then we are grabbing the pop-up with the class name, and we're checking okay the pop-up is visible or not. So if it's visible, then okay we are good. We check the marker available, we check the marker is visible, then we click on that marker, and we actually showing okay the pop-up is rendering. So if I just run all the tests, and all should pass, and as you can see in the last stage, it was just open the pop-up and check the last test case. So this is basically how I just write the test code for the map, testing the map. And if you have a feature like this, you can also write down the test code, something I did here. Most of the time when you are using third-party library, there should be, when it's rendering in the UI, there should be some class name, there should be some ID. So you have to figure out those ID to grab that element, and you have to apply the assertion which will actually you want to trying to test. So this is it for review map. Now I think if I go back to our all the test list, and as you can see, we write test case for add and edit games, then we write test case for game list and review, then the home page, then the login, moderator, and reviews map. So now let's try to check all of our test case is actually passing or not, because in the UI you cannot check that okay all our test case is passing or not. You have to check those things by clicking manually in your test case file. So let's just run a command which will help you to basically test all the file are just passing or not. So for doing that, if you go to the client project folder, and in the package.json file, you will see a command that will help you to run all the tests, which is cy:\test, which will basically run npx cypress run. So whenever you enter this command, it will try to run all the tests in a headless mode, so that it will not open a browser or doing all the thing that we see earlier. It will just run the test case in a terminal mode with a headless browser. So now let's go to our client folder to check okay all the tests are running perfectly or not. So npm run cy test. This one is the script I just added. You can also try npx cypress run, both work fine. So let's just try to run this, and let's see all of our tests actually pass or not. If you look closely, that you can see run starting, there are Cypress, you will show the version, you will see the browser which is Electron, and it's headless. That means it will not open a browser directly, it will do the work, same work in the terminal. So if you now go down, then you will see there are it will apply the test case file by file. So this is the first file which have 6 test suits, which have 6 test case, then all are passing, and it took 60 seconds. And you can see the results if you go down. So sometime you will see that okay some tests will fail. Now as you can see here, in our report in the add game, which is passing all the tests. There are 5 test case, 5 are passing, game list working fine, home is working fine. But in the login, there are 6 test case, 5 are passing, 1 is getting failed. And also moderator, all are passing, review, all are passing. So there are 6 test suits, and all the test case actually passed. There are 25 test case, but 24 actually passed, but 1 is actually getting failed. So let's just look into the one which actually got failed. So this is the one, should display login or create account based on user existence. So why it is failed? It is failed because of Cypress error, timeout, retrying after 50 milliseconds. So this is basically a common error in Cypress. So whenever you are mocking an API, sometimes it will give you error because the API is actually waiting for a little bit more time. That's why you are saying that okay, there are some timeout error. So what you can do here, you will find a Cypress config file in your client folder, in your client project, and as you can see in here, and you can add a option. So the option is basically retry. So in the config, in the top of the config, you will find a retries property where you can add any number. So that's mean if your API or some sort of if some API in your test case are failing with the timeout error, then it should try again. It should try until your retry is actually over. That's mean if you added retries 3, that's mean it will try the API call for 3 times, and it will actually wait. If the first time failed, then it will apply it for second time, then third time. So most of the time, if you just added retries 3, most of the time all of your API should pass. If not, then you have to add another property which will be help you to increase the timeout for waiting for a particular API. Right now the default is 5 milliseconds, like 5 seconds. If one API failed, that's mean if you call API, then it will wait for 5 seconds to get the response. So because it's like a Cypress mocking things, so I think it is actually coming from the issue is sometimes coming from Cypress to get the API call and getting the response. So I think from my case, retry adding 3 for retries work perfectly. So I think in your case you have to check the particular error, why it's happening, and you have to resolve that error. So let's just try to run again. Now it should pass all the tests, and you will see that when it got failed, it will try again to rerun the test code to pass the test code. And this is where we actually failed multiple times. Like this is the login file where it actually failed the first test case, and as you can see, attempt 1 of 4. That's mean when it got failed the first time, then it tried again the test case, and as you can see, it's showing that okay, out of 4 it actually tried twice, and the second time it actually got passed, and you can see it's actually passed. So you will also get the screenshot of that error, that okay, where you are exactly getting the error. And if you go to the Cypress folder, you will see a screenshot folder which is automatically created by Cypress, and as you can see where it actually got failed, so it is actually failing on the wait moment. So it will give you a screenshot of that moment. So and most of the time retries actually works, and as you can see for our case it's also work, and we have total 25 test case, we have total 25 case, and all the test cases passed and all specs passed. So this is how you can just run and check all the test case are passed or not, and you can see a good UI kind of things to check the report, and it will also show you the time that test case actually took what time. So it took 16 seconds, it took 9 seconds, home page took 800 plus millisecond. Then yeah, so this is like a simple report or things to check all the tests pass or not. So by achieving this, you can either add a custom command in your package.json file as I did cy:\test, or you can just simply type npx cypress run and hit enter, then it will work as well. As so if I just try to run it, and sorry, then it should also work. Oh yeah, you can ignore this error. This is kind of like DevTools related error. So it will basically try to run all the test case again and just check pass all the tests pass or not. So this is kind of it that you can check all the test code, and the other way is the graphical interface where you can check file by file that okay, this file is a feature by feature, this file is working or not, this file test code are working or not. I think both are the way is really good to check with different purpose. So I think that's it.